You're standing in a bank, opening a checking account. It's the most basic financial thing a person can do. You have your ID, you have money you are trying to hand them. You're not asking to borrow anything, so there is no version of this where they say no. They didn't. What arrived a few days later was a letter with a company's name on it. Not a bank, not a credit bureau you'd ever heard of. A company you had never heard of in your life that had already decided about you. Here's the picture you had in your head, and it's a reasonable one. A bank is a shop. You're a customer walking in with money, and shops do not turn away money. And behind the counter, you assumed, there's one file. The credit report. The famous one. The 3-digit number. The thing that decides mortgages and car loans. You have a rough idea where yours sits, and even if it's ugly, so what? A checking account isn't credit. Nobody is lending you anything. That picture is wrong in exactly one place, not the money part, the file part. Because in the United States, when you apply for a checking account, most banks are not pulling your credit report to make that decision. They're pulling a different one. About you. Assembled without your involvement, held by a company you have never contacted. By the end of this video, you'll know what that report is called, what is actually written in it, how long it stays there, and why one bank turning you down can quietly mean all of them. It's called an account screening report, and in the US, it usually comes from one of two companies, ChexSystems or early warning services. They are not credit bureaus, they're banking bureaus. Over 80% of banks pull one before they will let you open a checking or savings account. And one of the two isn't an outside vendor in any normal sense. It's owned by a consortium of the largest banks in the country. The people at the gate own the gate. So, a second file, what's in it? Not crimes. According to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, you end up in there for 3 things. 1. You had an unpaid negative balance, an overdraft, and the bank closed the account on you. 2. The bank suspected fraud. 3. And read this one twice. You had a joint account with somebody else who had those problems. Somebody else's overdraft, on your file. And the reporting companies sort every one of those into 2 buckets. Account abuse or suspected fraud. There is no bucket for went $12 under on a Tuesday and was slow paying it back. That's account abuse, filed under the same heading as the fraud. You didn't fail a credit check. You failed a background check to give a bank your money. Now, the obvious objection, and it's a good one. Banks closing accounts must be rare. Overdrafts happen to everyone. Getting shut down over one has to be a tiny, extreme tale. The CFPB measured it. In a single year, across the banks in its overdraft study, 6% of checking accounts were closed involuntarily. Closed by the bank, not by the customer. 1 in 17. That is not a tale. That's a couple of people on every bus. And most of those closures come from unpaid negative balances, which means most of them are overdrafts. Here's the ugly detail underneath. When a debit card overdraft is small, the fee is often bigger than the amount you went under by. So the unpaid balance that closed your account and put your name in a national database can be mostly fees you were charged for being short. Fine, you think. Then I'll walk into a different bank. That's the wall, and this is where it breaks. There is no different bank. They are all reading the same 2 reports. One institution's decision about you propagates instantly to every institution querying the same database, which is most of them. And it stays. Generally 5 years, according to the OCC. Under the Fair Credit Reporting Act, some negative information can be reported for up to 7. 5 years is a car lease. 5 years is a degree. 5 years over an overdraft fee, standing between you and the ordinary act of having somewhere to put your paycheck. So here's the turn, and it's the reason this isn't a horror story. That shadow file is not operating outside the law. Those 2 companies are consumer reporting agencies, the same legal category as the credit bureaus you already know, governed by the same statute, the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Which means the gate has rules written on it. When a bank denies you an account because of one of these reports, it is required to send you an adverse action notice, and that notice has to name the company that supplied it. Not our records. The name. You're entitled to a free copy of that report within 60 days of the notice. You're entitled to one free every 12 months regardless. ChexSystems will hand over a score as well, free, on request, a number about your banking behavior that a stranger has been reading for years and you have never seen. And what's in the file can be disputed at both ends, with the reporting company and with the bank that reported it. They are required to investigate. Think about that for a second. The entire time this file has been standing between you and a bank counter, it has also been sitting there in your name, free, waiting to be asked for. Now the strange part, nobody counts. There are no national statistics on how many people this gate turns away. A federally regulated system standing in front of the entire banking industry, and the number simply is not published. What we do know, in 2023, the FDIC found that about 5.6 million American households had no bank account at all. And of those, roughly 1 in 8 said a reason was problems with their past banking history. An entire product category exists because of this. Second chance accounts, built and sold specifically for people the gate rejected. The market shaped itself around the whole. And one last thing from that CFPB study. The bank with the highest closure rate closed 14 times as many accounts as the bank with the lowest. Same customer behavior, 14 times the chance of a 5-year mark, depending on nothing but which branch you happen to walk into. So, you're standing in a bank, opening a checking account. You have your ID. You have your money. In front of you is a counter, and behind that counter is a door you have never seen, and behind that door somebody is holding a clipboard with your name on it. Written mostly out of overdraft fees. Kept for 5 years. Readable by almost every bank in the country. You were always allowed to read it too. Nobody ever told you it was there.